Hey, music fans, welcome back to Sound Lab Studios. We are going to be continuing the slow moving series that Nick and I are doing, going through the top five albums every year of the 1970s. And a lot of the slow movingness has to just do with crazy work scheduling and stuff like that, just coordination and different days off and things like that. But whenever we're available, we want to come together right now over me and uh, go through the top five albums of every year of the 1970s. And so this year is going to be 1973, one of the best years for music, if you ask me. Lots of great albums, and some ones I'm very sad that I couldn't fit in my top five, but that's what the honorable mentions are for. So, without further ado, Nick, are you ready to dive into the year 1973?
Yes, I am.
This is kind of where music starts to get a bit more experimental. Like in the early 70s, we got some great singer songwriters, but this particular year, people are starting to change the way that music works, and it's just crazy. I am very excited to get to dive into these amazing albums. And without further ado, we're going to get started with Nick's number five. If you haven't watched any of these top five before, Nick does number five. I'll do number five. He does four. I do four. He does three. I do three. We go down the line. And then we've got honorable mentions and then our album of the year for 1973. So let's go ahead and do Nick, what is your number five album of 1973?
Well, before I get to my number five, I just gotta say, 1973, like you said, it's a big year for music. I mean, my top five favorite albums of this year, they're my top five. They're my top 100 albums of all time. So that should prove to you how great these albums are. They mean a lot to me. Just great stuff. I actually had to make a last minute change because had to fit one thing in here because I just recently heard it. I'm like, whoa, this album's amazing, you know. But
Yeah, if
I'll
I could go back and put Close to the Edge on my 1972 video, it would be my number one album of 1972.
but yeah, I had to make a couple of changes actually, but I'm happy with the changes I made. Maybe in a while I might be like, oh, maybe I should have did this, but right now I'm happy with it. My number five though is going to be the Basement Tapes by Bob Dylan. Uh, this is a
Hey, it's Bob Dylan. Hey, the basement tapes. We are going into the basement. Let me play my tapes for you. Hey. Okay, I'm done.
this is a great album. What a fantastic album for Bob. Oh, I got the year wrong. Sorry, sorry guys. It's 75 Basement Tapes. I'm sorry. My number five is actually
You.
Intervention Stevie Wonder. Sorry, I mistake the years. Sorry, I got very little sleep and I put my list together very last minute today. So forgive me, YouTube gods.
You are forgiven.
Yeah, my number five though is Intervisions by Stevie Wonder. What a fantastic album this is. This was his second album, second or third album, depending on how you view it, in his classic period, or as I call it, the Wonder Years, where he has full control over his music. You know, no one telling him, "No, Stevie, we don't want you doing it this way." So uh, what are some great songs on it? Let me tell you. Of course, living for the city is a great song about how it was like being in the city for you know black people and how crazy things were. Very crazy knowing how things were back then. Put things into to perspective. Uh, it's like to find a job is like it's like a needle in a haystack. Crazy. Uh, Too High is a great jazzy song. Love, love, love. I love jazz influence in songs. That's why I'm a big fan of Cream. Visions is nice. Golden Lady is beautiful. Higher Ground is just funky. So good. Jesus Children of America is great. All in Love is Fair is great. Don't You Worry About a Thing is amazing. And I love the song He's Mr. Know-It-All. One of the best songs. It was like about Richard Nixon. Really, I love his political songs. It's not in your face like what Roger Waters did on the Animals album. I feel like that album was extreme. He was like shoving it down your throat. But at this album, Stevie Wonder's just doing it in a way where where it's good. Well, he's doing it, but it's not like I could still enjoy the music.
Speaking of which, I got a joke album. I was at a record store and I found a sealed copy of Richard Nixon's inaugural address. And so it was $5. So I'm like, I'm just going to buy this just to say that I have a sealed copy of Richard Nixon's inaugural address. And just be like, look, this is my most prized record. It's a sealed copy of Richard Nixon's inaugural address. just as a joke.
That's crazy.
It's $5. So I'm like, why not? All right. You got anything else to say about that album?
One thing I gotta say about it is it's very essential to my, like I said, this album's in my top 100 albums of all time. It's just, it's amazing.
My number 5 is The Captain and Me by the Doobie Brothers. This is my favorite Doobie Brothers album. What the Minute by Minute album is vying for that top spot, though, because it sounds a lot like Steely Dan. I like Michael McDonald Doobie Brothers, too, but this is country rock Doobie Brothers at their best. The best of the country rock Doobie Brothers albums, if you ask me. It's got amazing songs on it. I love China Grove and I love Long Train Running. Those songs are absolutely fantastic, but there's some other great stuff on there too. Fresh as the Clearly Fallen Snow is an amazing deep cut on there by Pat Simmons, kind of written about drug addiction. Oh man, just all the songs on that album are fantastic. I'm gonna pull up the track listing real quick just so I need to get the track listing. The Captain and Me. Okay, Natural Thing. That is amazing. Long Train Running. Great guitar riff. China Grove. Amazing. Dark Eyed Cajun Woman. That's a really groovy song. Clear as the Driven Snow. That's the name of the song. Pat Simmons. One of my favorites on the album. Without You. Amazing. South City Midnight Lady. Amazing. Oh yeah, Evil Woman. Not the ELO song. I like the ELO song better, but this is also amazing. Ukiah, and then the title track Captain and Me. Yeah, great album. If you like kind of country rock or just like classic rock, give a listen to this Doobie Brothers album because it's absolutely amazing.
I actually own that album because I saw it at the record store and I thought the album cover was really cool.
Oh yeah. Oh, speaking of listening to an album because the cover's cool, I finally listened to the B-side of that Tarkus album. The B-side was terrible. The A-side is one of the best pieces of music I've ever heard. Then the B-side was just trash.
What's the name of the album again?
Tarkus by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. The musicianship is amazing, but the A-side is so much better than the B-side. Half the songs on the B-side are just joke songs.
I wonder what band they got that from. The Byrds.
Oh,
I feel so messed up for saying that because the Byrds are one of my favorites. My number 4 is by we were just discussing them before. It's a album by John Denver. It's gonna be Farewell, Andromeda, or hold on, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Farewell, Andromeda. Yeah, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Maybe when Jason watches this, he'll correct me. This is an amazing singer-songwriter album. Rather Be a Cowboy is amazing. Berkeley Woman's great. Please Daddy's great. River of Love is great. The title track is my favorite. One of my favorite Denver songs. Just so many good songs on this. This was, I'd say there's like a 5 album run with John Denver from an album called Poems, Prayers, and Promises to Wind Song, where he's just like playing. He's just top tier. Four of those albums are my top 100 albums of all time. So I mentioned Rocky Mountain High on the 72 video, and I'm mentioning this album now. So yeah, my number 4, Farewell Andromeda.
My number 4, and these albums are actually flipping positions from where they were the first time we did this video, but reevaluating, I think I like the other album a bit better. But my number 4 album is going to be Quadrophenia by The Who. We need to review that album eventually, so I'll save kind of the big in-depth review for all the thing about the 4 themes and the story behind it for that. But it's got a story. It's got 4 musical themes that go with the personalities of the members. It's absolutely incredible. I love Quadrophenia, and I love the songs The Real Me. I love the bass. That's the best bass line of all time, if you ask me. It is so cool. And then Love Reign Over Me, insane. I love Roger Daltrey screaming at the end. Keith Moon's drumming is great. And then all the songs in the middle, other than Dr. Jimmy, are amazing. And I love The Punk Meets the Godfather, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, and Helpless Dancer, and Bellboy. It's just lots of great songs by The Who. Oh, yeah. Countdown to Ecstasy came out this year. Unfortunately, that is not going to be in my top 5 of 1973. Yeah, it's near the bottom of my Steely Dan ranking, but if this was 1967 or 1966, you can bet Royal Scam and Asia are definitely going to be in my top 10 or top 5 of those years. But Countdown to Ecstasy is in my honorable mentions.
It's not even in my top 15 albums of this year. Well, to be fair, it's a big year for music, but yeah, it's a great album, but I don't know. It's not quite on par with Asia, Royal Scam, and
their debut.
The debut.
Can't Buy a Thrill.
Oh yeah, speaking of Houses of the Holy,
hold on a second. You're gonna see that one later down the line.
My number 3 though was Houses of the Holy. Yeah, number 3. It was a toss up between this one and the next one. I'm like, there's one song that prevented this album from being higher than the next album, and that's The Ocean. Not that it's a bad song. It's
I
a
thought
great
you were
song.
going to say The Crunch. I forgot you like. We both like The Crunch.
Like The Crunch.
James Brown tribute. Where's that confounded bridge?
The Crunch is my second favorite off of Houses, believe it or not. I don't know. The Ocean just isn't on par with the other 7 songs.
Sad.
I always thought it was a little overrated compared to the others. Like people always compare it to like Jamaica and Over the Hills So Far Away. I'm like, those 2 songs are way better. And even Dancing Days, I'm like, that song's even better too. I don't know. I've never gotten why The Ocean was such a big hit for them. Speaking of, but all negatives aside, the song remains the same as Killer. Rain Song, one of the best Zeppelin songs ever. That's followed up by, again, one of the best Led Zeppelin songs ever, Over the Hills and Far Away. That's followed up by my second favorite song on the album, The Crunch. That's followed up by my third favorite on the album, Dancing Days. My fourth favorite would be Rain Song. Jamaica's amazing. The Ocean has such a Black Sabbath feel to it. Reminds me so much of what, it sounds like something that Ozzy would do if he was with Zeppelin. So cool. And like I said, The Ocean, it's good, really good, but I don't know, not as good. But yeah, that's my number 3, Houses of the Holy.
My number 3 is Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John. Yeah, my original video, I had that below Quadrophenia because we track versus tracked it on Nick's channel, but now that I'm kind of thinking about it, I think I would put it above Quadrophenia just because of some of the songs I like better than some of the stuff on Quadrophenia. But Funeral for a Friend and Love Lies Bleeding, probably my favorite Elton John song, and I got to see him do it live. Insane. I just love the the synthesizer opening with the wind sound effects, and then David Johnstone just going crazy on the guitar, and Elton going ham on the piano. Candle in the Wind, amazing tribute to Marilyn Monroe. Benny and the Jets, one of the catchiest songs I've ever heard. I love the piano on Benny and the Jets. And then side 2, the title track, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I love the song Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. It's amazing. This song has no title. I actually really like that song. Gray Seal, really underrated song. I've seen that movie too. Fantastic. I love the reverse guitar on that. If you've watched the channel for a while and you've watched Nick and me talk about Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, you know that we're not too big on the third side of the album, but it picks up again on the fourth side with Your Sister Can't Twist, but She Can Rock and Roll, kind of a cool 50s sounding song. Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, sounds kind of Stonesy, if you ask me. I love the guitar riff. One of my favorite songs on the album. And then Roy Rogers and Social Disease are both great, and Harmony, a really great way to close the album. So Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Number 3.
I need to listen to that album more.
Living in the Material World. I've never listened to all of George Harrison's solo albums.
Well, I did a full series on my YouTube channel reviewing them all, so there's that.
If you have not subscribed to Townsend 909, go check out his George Harrison reviews.
Yeah, those are. I feel happy with those reviews.
Also, you want to hear something funny? You know, whenever you were putting the polls, it's like, what's the next Beatles solo career that I should do? Since I have 3 YouTube channels, I voted all 3 of them on Ringo. And you know how I kept switching between Paul and Ringo?
Yeah.
That's why Ringo was ahead for a while, because I voted them all on Ringo, and then I unvoted Ringo and it went to Paul.
I'm like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, you're like, I guess I'm doing Ringo next in one of your videos, and then the next day you're like, well, thank goodness people started voting for Paul, so I'll be doing Paul next instead.
Honestly, I don't mind doing Ringo next, but I'm like, if you
He
guys
has way too many albums.
I mean, if you guys want me to do Ringo next, I can.
He's got an album called I Want to Be Santa Claus.
Probably, I'm like, oh no. I heard Ringo has some really bad albums. I'm like, oh no. Can I do, like, I want to talk about Band on the Run and Ram and
Yeah.
Venus and Mars. I don't want to talk about Ringo. It was like,
at least if you did the John Lennon albums, would you count the first 3?
I counted electronic sound.
Because you wouldn't want to have to listen to for 15 minutes. That's
I
counted
counted
with the Plastic Ono Band.
I counted electronic sound by George Harrison, so you could imagine the answer to that.
0 out of 10.
If I can handle over 40 minutes of I think I can handle a little screaming. That was I am not proud of listening to that album. I never listened to the record. If you ask me what my top 10 worst albums of all time is, Electronic Sound is on there. It's not good. That Time by Fleetwood Mac, the three albums before Plastic Ono Band,
Calling All Stations by Genesis.
It's not that. It's bad, but it's not time. It's not Electronic Sound bad.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't. It's not Mr. Wonderful bad. But anyways, my number 2 is Queen's debut album from 1973. This album is so good. This was even close to being my top album of 73. But then I listened to Quadrophenia again for the Who ranking. I'm like, yeah, no. Quadrophenia is clearly the best for me, of course. But let's talk about Queen 1, though. Keep Yourself Alive. Oh, man. Opening up with one of your big hits. Well, back then it wasn't a big hit, but now it's remembered well today.
That's how they introduced themselves.
Yeah. Doing All Right. Oh, I love that song. Great King Grat is probably one of their proggiest songs, but I love it. I know it's only prog rock, but I like it. My Fairy King, I used to not like that song, but that song has grown on me. Liar, Oh man, what a great song that is. The Night Comes Down. That was a great song. Modern Times Rock and Roll, just a fast little number by Taylor. Love it. Son and Daughter, one of my all-time favorite Queen songs. Jesus, probably my Jesus and Seven Seas of Rye are my two least favorites on the album, but they're both good in their own right. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not putting down any, like, I'm not putting down Christianity. There's a lot of Bob Dylan songs that are God related that I really like.
No, I'm getting what you're saying. It's just the song.
Yeah. There's a
I
song
would
called-
I would put "Sympathy for the Devil" by the Rolling Stones as one of the best songs on Beggar's Banquet.
yeah.
in the opposite way.
Yeah. I mean, I love House of the Holy. I love God Knows by Bob Dylan. There's a lot of Christian songs I really like, but this song it's just okay. But yeah, that's my number 2, Queen.
Queen might be my number 5 if I listen to the first album more. I bought the record, so I need to listen to it again, and maybe it'll replace Doobie Brothers or even The Who. We'll see. But my number 2 is going to be The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Yeah, this is an absolutely amazing masterclass of an album. It's really everything that an album should be. Great production, cool sound effects, and engineered by Alan Parsons, one of my new favorite musicians and producers. But just really cool, and I like the thematic thing of the album. That it's kind of things in life that everybody goes through. You start off really well with breathe in the air. I like that. It's kind of mellow. That's the word I'm thinking of. Mellow. And then it gets a little spooky with On the Run, kind of about trying to get places all at once and about avoiding the busy airplane terminal, trying to get through the busy airplane terminal. You kind of have like a plane crashing sound at the end.
I wonder what other popular rock band would make an instrumental about an airport.
And
I wonder who.
blues to a song about a camel.
Ooh.
But then when the plane blows up, you can kind of hear a clock in the background, and then like the clocks go off, ding, 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 ding. It's really cool that they actually went into a clock shop and recorded those. That's not just a little like studio sound they had. They actually recorded the clocks, and the ticking kind of forms the backbeat of the song Time. David Gilmour's guitar solo is amazing, and Richard Wright's electric piano playing is really great on that song. And then my favorite song on the album is actually The Great Gig in the Sky. I know a lot of people don't like that song, and I don't get it because like the Richard Wright's piano intro, and then all of a sudden it's just like like the lady going crazy on the vocals. It's just like, whoa, this is really good. And then Money. Man, Money is a great song as well. I love the bass line. Do 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 do, and the tremolo guitar by David Gilmour. Money, and that's kind of symbolizing greed. I know before we had people trying to go everywhere in a hurry, and then Time was about kind of the opposite. That time kind of passes quickly. Oh, or I guess it's kind of the same thing, but time passing quickly and kind of your life getting to the end of it before you know it. And then Great Gig in the Sky is about the looming threat of death at the end of your life. And then you flip the record over, you got Money, that's about greed. And then, oh man, Us and Them, man, that's a great song. And Brain Damage, that one's great as well. It's where you get the title of the album. We'll see you on the dark side of the moon. And then Eclipse is a great way to close the album. And I love how in the background, and you can just barely hear a guy saying, there is no dark side of the moon. As a matter of fact, it's all dark, really. Kind of in the Scottish accent. But great album. And as Nick likes to say, it's the best album of all time. It's just not my favorite album of all time. It's not even my favorite album of 1973. So,
I love Any Color You Like.
Yes.
That's a good instrumental. I'm very sorry. I can't stand Great Gig in the Sky. Oh, I hate that song. The screaming, I can't stand it. Just, I know there was trying to be, I know there was supposed to be like meaning behind it, but it ruins an otherwise perfect piano. It should have
Would you
just.
rather hear Roger Waters recite poetry to that song? Because there's an option with
Even,
that.
even worse. I'm like, no way they can make this worse. And then Roger Waters is like, hold my wall.
Yeah, hold my.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, Waters. I mean, I would rather that than the poetry thing, but I'm sorry, I can never get into that track. I tried, I really did. But having that said, here are my 10 honorable albums. Number, well, it's not in order, to be honest. Dylan from 1970, the self-titled album. So I did get some Bob Dylan in there, but not the ones that I wanted. Wait another 2 years, and you're gonna get 2 albums in 75. Penguin by Fleetwood Mac and Mystery to Me by Fleetwood Mac. Those 2 albums are great. Mind Games by John Lennon. Goat's Head Soup by the Rolling Stones. Living in the Material World by George Harrison. Band on the Run by Wings or Paul McCartney. Red Rose Speedway by Paul McCartney or Wings.
Which was engineered by Alan Parsons.
Great album. Selling England by the Pound by Genesis. And Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath by Black Sabbath.
Honorable mentions for me. Queen's first album, Subject to Change and Hopefully Get Higher. What else? Oh, Holland by the Beach Boys. That's a pretty good album. Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player by Elton John. Band on the Run by Paul McCartney. Leonard Skinner's first album, pronounced Leonard Skin Nerd. Intervisions by Stevie Wonder. Selling England by the Pound by Genesis. Countdown to Ecstasy by Steely Dan. Tres Hombres by ZZ Top. I actually like that album. What else? I'm trying to find lists. Well, I've never listened to David Bowie, but he came out with his Aladdin Sane album this year. So if anyone wants to know why that's not on my list, it's because I haven't heard it yet.
Well, I've heard it and it's not on my list, so yeah. Don't be too ashamed.
What else? Oh yeah, did Penguin by Fleetwood Mac come out this year?
Yes, I had Penguin and Mystery to Me as honorable mention.
Penguin and Mystery to Me. Desperado by the Eagles came out this year.
Oh.
Well. I like Desperado better than the Doobie Brothers album, so if I could go back in time, I would replace Desperado with the Doobie Brothers album as my number 5 because I love that album. So I'm not going to be able to talk about it since we're this late, but just a little blurb, Desperado would probably be my number 5 if I had a do-over. I just forgot it came out this year. But you can expect to see On the Border on my one for 1974. And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'd consider myself more of a casual Eagles fan. They're great, but
I like all their original albums. I haven't listened to The Long Road Out of Eden, but I've heard it's terrible. And the one song I heard a little sample from was so bad. My roommate and I were just looking at the titles of some of the songs, and one of them is called Busy Being Fabulous. And we're like, oh, is Don Henley too busy being fabulous on this album? And then we played a little bit, and we're like, oh, this is so bad.
It's not that bad. I don't hate that album. Like I said, I wouldn't consider myself a huge Eagles fan, like, well, both football and music-wise. I mean, you know I'm not the biggest fan of a band when I pick the Basic Choice as my favorite. I mean, you do as well, but I have Hotel California is my favorite album by them.
It's because it is.
Most of the time, I don't
It's
usually
just their best album.
I don't usually pick the basic choices either, but that album.
Jason picked Desperado as his favorite by them. I was surprised.
Me too. I mean, that's my third favorite
It's a
album.
good choice.
It's my third favorite album by them.
My third favorite by them is On the Border.
My second favorite's One of These Nights, and then my favorite.
That one's amazing.
But Eagles talk aside, my number one, Quadrophenia by The Who. My second favorite Who album. You guys watched Scott's Who ranking with us.
The 5-hour one.
This was that video took forever. I mean,
in a good way.
I mean, the Queen video is also 5 hours, and we did 15 albums with.
Nothing's gonna beat top 50 albums of 1970s though. That was like 6 hours.
You know what's crazy though? If you would have actually joined us, Scott, it would have probably been 6 hours if you would have joined us.
Good thing I haven't listened to The Miracle or Flash Gordon.
Yeah. Good thing.
After that.
Yeah. I only got 4 hours of sleep that night. It was crazy. And I had to wake up at 6 a.m. So that was not fun. All that side. Quadrophenia by The Who. In my top 50 albums of all time. Well, 100, but 50. Top 50 albums of all time. This album is just, to me, perfect. It's a perfect album. Every song on it's great. I'm going to save all my in-depth thoughts on it when we review it. So I'll just leave it at that.
Cool. My number one album of 1973. Houses of the Holy by Led Zeppelin. It is my favorite Led Zeppelin album, and let me tell you why. Because they throw so many genres at you. It's their most diverse and their most experimental album.
It's like also their most original.
Yes. No blues covers on this one. It's all original songs by them, and each one is in a different style. So you got the first one, The Song Remains the Same, which is more of the traditional hard rock. And there's also lots of cool studio techniques they use on this album. Most of the people are like, I don't like that. Led Zeppelin was more of a live in the studio band. Like, well, that may have been true for the first 2 albums, but by this point, Jimmy Page was interested in overdubbing a bunch of guitar parts and studio techniques. Like on The Song Remains the Same, Robert Plant sang it they slowed the tape down and he sang it kind of in a more lower voice, and they sped it up to make him sound higher. So they're using different techniques there, and there's lots of overdub guitars on this song as well. The Rain song, my favorite Led Zeppelin song. I think it's even better than Stairway to Heaven. I know, you're like, that's not true. Well, in my opinion, it is, because the first time I heard it, the day after the 50th anniversary of the Houses of the Holy album, I was like, whoa, what is this? Like, John Paul Jones plays so many different instruments, like acoustic piano, upright bass, mellotron. Robert Plant is vocally at the top of his game. Jimmy Page tuning his guitar in a weird tuning, playing both acoustic and electric guitars. It's just like the sound just washes over you, and you hear a sound that you think it's like an orchestra, but it's really just John Paul Jones playing the mellotron, and I think that's really cool. And then John Bonham comes in near the end, just absolutely kills the drums. And Over the Hills and Far Away. So we got hard rock, we got a ballad, and then now we got a folk song. Over the Hills and Far Away. I love the intro. And then when it switches from acoustic to electric, and I don't know why, but I think the solo, it sounds like Jimmy Page is making his guitar sound like a violin almost, and I think that's really cool. And then we got the grunge, we got hard rock, ballad, folk, and now we've got funk. They're getting their James Brown on, and I don't know why, but I laugh so hard every time at the end where he goes, "Where is that confounded bridge?" Apparently it's a play on when James Brown used to say, "Take me to the bridge," and they would play the bridge of the song. But Robert Plant goes, take me," and then nothing happens. He just goes, "Excuse me, I'm trying to find the bridge." "Excuse me, sir, have you seen the bridge?" "I'm trying to find the bridge." And it's just, It's really stupid, but it's fun.
Where's that Confronted Bridge? And it's just
I know.
like the album, the side just
And
ends.
that's how the side ends. It was like, oh.
How
And
could
then,
how could any Led Zeppelin, like a real Led Zeppelin fan, tell me that they don't like that song? I don't know.
I don't know. You flip it over, and it's got Dancing Days, which is kind of more of an Eastern sound to it, kind of like something George Harrison would have written. I heard that Jimmy Page or Robert Plant had heard a tape of some Indian folk music, and that kind of inspired them to write this song. I love the that riff.
I said it's alright. I said it's alright.
Yeah, lots of overdub guitar. So now we've got Indian classical music, and then we've got reggae. John Bonham's drumming on this song, Dear Maker, Jamaica. It's pronounced Jamaica, but it looks like Dear Maker, which is kind of a British joke where it's like, my wife was out on a holiday today. Oh, Jamaica? No, she decided to go on her own accord. But
Hover.
yeah. Great drumming by John Bonham on this song. Apparently, they just kind of did this as a jam session in the studio, and then they never played it live again, which is interesting because it was one of the biggest hits off of this album. I hear it on the radio all the time, and I hear it when I go to Chewy's Tex-Mex, which is kind of a Texas Tex-Mex place. But I hear it all the time there, and then we've got No Quarter, which is kind of more progressive rock. I love the keyboard at the beginning that John Paul Jones is playing. It kind of sounds like it's underwater. I call it like the underwater keyboard. And then the guitar riff.
Yeah, basically Led Zeppelin doing Black Sabbath.
And the guitar solo is absolutely insane. And I love the kind of the warbly effect they put on Robert Plant's voice. It's really cool, kind of painting the picture of Vikings that they couldn't stay home at their village because they had to go out to fight. And then the closer, I like the ocean. I'm sorry, Nick. I like the ocean. It's really cool.
I didn't say I didn't like it.
I love the riff. Bow, 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 no, no. John Bonham's drum. Okay, you know that's gonna be a cool song when you get a John Bonham count off at the beginning. He's like, "We got 4 already, and now we're steady, and 1."
That's the
2,
best part of the song,
3.
I will say.
Bow, 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 no, no. Those drum fills are too good.
That's the best quality of the song, though, is the drumming.
And I like how it kind of switches up into more of a shuffle at the end, like the bump. And that's how the album ends. So, yeah. You might be saying Led Zeppelin 4 is better, but I like this one better just because of the different styles and the studio musicianship on this one. And then
but to me, besides Presence, every album's better than 4.
No, I would disagree. I like 4 better than a lot of Led Zeppelin albums, but I'm gonna have to make a ranking video eventually.
Yeah, once we're done with once we actually finish the Led Zeppelin series.
I'll say I like it better than 1 and 2, at least.
I don't know. There's just like 5 of the 8 songs I could just never listen to again.
I will say that oddly enough, it's one that I don't listen to a lot, but I don't know. I guess it's because I hear a lot of those songs from that album on the radio, and I like the bigger hits more than the deep cuts, because the deep cuts are like Battle of Evermore and 4 Sticks, and I'm like, I'm not too big.
Well, for me, Battle of Evermore, what's it called? Misty Mountain Hop and When the Levee Breaks are the only 3 songs I ever listened from that album. The other 5 probably will never listen to again, like by choice.
When the Levee Breaks is amazing.
That's like the best song on the album, in my opinion. That is. 4 Sticks.
When the Levee Breaks.
4 Sticks is just awful. It's not like you got overplayed.
It's funny because I call Candy Store Rock the rockabilly version of 4 Sticks.
I don't know which one I dislike more, but like
Candy
Black
Store
Dog, Rock and Roll, and Stairway to Heaven, and Going to California, those songs just got played out for me.
I still like them.
I don't.
I don't like Battle of Evermore or Force Ticks as much as the other stuff.
I don't know. Battle of Evermore I've always liked better than some of
I mean, I think it's cool that they referenced Lord of the Rings, but it's just kind of there, in my opinion.
Know. Agree to disagree.
Yeah, but we have reached the end of our video.
This is the end. This song is boring.
Oddly enough, one of my least favorite songs on that album.
It's the worst song for me. It's the worst song in general. I can't stand that song. It's so boring.
It's like, gonna get a lot of hate for saying that, but
it's 11 minutes of me being a poet.
Yeah, it's like, shut up and play Break On Through again. Oh boy, we're gonna get hate for saying that. While we're ahead, before we say anything else controversial, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.
So long.